Hi, I'm Crystal Bessie with the Louisiana Farm to School program. This month's Louisiana Harvest of the Month happens to be one of my favorite vegetables, and it's a staple in Southern cooking. It's greens. In the South, when we talk about greens, we're really referring to those dark green leafy vegetables that have been cooked until tender and eaten warm. Greens have held an important place on the Southern table for over a century, and they include collard greens, mustard greens, Swiss chard, and even kale. Let's learn a little more about what makes that vegetable so special. These leafy greens are distinct from much of the rest of the cabbage family because they do not form heads. Instead, their leaves are harvested. The oldest leafy greens within the cabbage family are collards, which were grown by the ancient Greeks and Romans. Mustard is another ancient plant with many uses, not only with those edible green leaves, but the seeds are used to make the condiment mustard. Today, India, China, and Japan are the main producers of mustard greens in the world, but a substantial amount are still grown in the United States. Swiss chard and spinach are members of the beet family, which includes beets and quinoa. Swiss chard originated in Sicily, Italy, where it remains popular across Europe. After the Civil War, the Swiss chard grew in popularity in the United States, and you can see why. Swiss chard is as nutritious as it is colorful. Varieties of Swiss chard have a rainbow of stem colors like red, pink, green, yellow, and even white. Think you don't like greens? Add a handful of spinach or Swiss chard to your favorite smoothie. Greens are a nutrient powerhouse that won't change the flavor. We're here at Fullness Farm in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, with Allison Guidros. Thanks for having us today.
You bet, it's great to have you out.
Tell me a little bit more about what you grow here at Fullness and how you do it.
Yeah, so we, like you said, we're in the city, and so we have a little bit of land here, an acre that we grow on, and we grow over 200 varieties of vegetables throughout the whole year.
You may remember Allison from the Lettuce Harvest of the Month video, and she showed us lots of greens that they grow that you can eat raw. But today we're talking about cooking greens. So can you tell me about what you grow for cooking greens?
Yeah, I think that cooking greens are probably my favorite thing to grow and to eat. And so we grow a lot of different types. We have kale, Swiss chard, collard greens, and then we also have some things that people think about for the roots, but you can also eat the tops as well, like beets and even turnips.
Is there a better time of year to grow these type of greens?
Yeah, you know, we kind of think about our farming year starting around when school starts. So in August is the time that we'll seed the greens in our greenhouse where it's a little bit cooler. And then after about 6 weeks, we'll plant them in the ground. But the fall, when it's cooler, that's when they grow the best.
So how come they grow the best in the cold? You would think that they wouldn't like the cold.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Greens can actually take it down to a light frost, and when it freezes, they actually get sweeter because they produce a sugar that makes them not freeze, like antifreeze in your car. And so the greens will taste sweeter after a little frost. Once it starts getting warmer, the greens will start putting up flowers and seeds, and then they don't taste as good as they do in the cooler months.
Now let's head over to Judy and see what she's got cooking.
Sounds great.
Here we are among all the growing greens on Fullness Farm. We've got greens on radishes, greens on beets. We've got some, what are these called?
Yeah, this is two different types of kale. This one has a lot of names. Some people call it black kale, dino kale, Louisiana kale, and this one we just call it green curly kale.
We've got some Swiss chard and some rainbow chard. Notice that the rainbow chard has a pink stem on it and the Swiss chard has a yellow stem. We've also got one of my favorites, collard greens, and we're going to talk a lot about collard greens today. Greens, greens, greens. Did you know that these leafy green vegetables are some of the most nutritious foods that you can eat? They contain iron, potassium, and calcium, and are a good source of vitamins A, C, K, and folate. Here's a fun fact. These vegetables get their beautiful green color from a pigment called chlorophyll. It's a pigment that's in plant leaves that makes it possible for plants to absorb the sunlight to provide energy for photosynthesis. Its molecule contains a magnesium atom. Cook them and they turn bright green at first, but if you cook them a little bit longer, that magnesium is replaced and they change color. So this is the color that they change to. It's called pheophytin. It's kind of an olive green color. The first step in the recipe that I'm going to demonstrate is washing the greens and trimming the heavy stem. If you fold the green over like that and then take your knife and just slide it along like that, now you've trimmed out the stem with one cut, not two cuts. There are two ways that I usually work with greens. One is I might cut them up like I did for this dish right here. Another way is to do like they do in Brazil. And that is I roll them up like this, and then I take my big knife right here and make some little greens that we're going to saute. With greens that have been cut into little squares like this, what I usually do is put them with a flavorful stock, maybe something with a little bit of tasso in it, and simmer them until they're tender. And then I might add some other flavorful vegetables like onions or garlic or turnips. Today we have a sample of a recipe that was prepared, and I'm going to have Allison taste test it. Pour a little of that tasty stock on them, and then top it off with a little bit of pepper vinegar. Try that.
Thank you so much. It's making my mouth water. Really, really good.
Very good, very good. All right, let's go back into the field and learn more about growing greens.
Did you know you can use the seeds from this frilly, green leaf vegetable to make your own yellow mustard? Gather the mature seed pods from the mustard green stalks, let dry, then soak the seeds in vinegar and blend.
So we're out here in the collard greens with Allison. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you harvest your greens out here?
Yeah, definitely. So with a lot of the greens like collards, kale, mustard greens, Swiss chard, one thing that's really great about them is you can plant it, and then if you harvest it right, you can get multiple harvests off of it. So if you come down here with me, you'll see that the smaller leaves are down here in the middle.
Okay, so those are like the newer leaves.
Exactly, those are the newer leaves. And so what we try to do is get the biggest leaves, which will be closest down to the ground and on the outside. And with collards, I really like it because you can just snap it off and just go all around a plant and get some of the biggest leaves from the bottom and leave that smaller leaves in the middle growing. And if you do it like this, you can get harvest off of this for months. We had some greens that we harvested off of for 9 months.
Can other greens be harvested this way?
Yeah, other greens we can do it the same way. Some of the cooking greens like we've been talking about today, they pretty much all can be harvested like that. And you can see we have 2 rows of collards here, but you can see that we've got a large variety of different things, and we like doing it like that and having a large diversity so that we get less pest pressure. And so in your own garden, it's nice if you have a lot of different types of greens, maybe some root vegetables, herbs, and it makes it more fun to cook with as well.
So just a few rows down from the collard greens, we're here with some beet greens. They're in the same family as Swiss chard, I believe. Is that correct, Allison?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Crystal. They're the same family as Swiss chard and spinach. And some people don't think about eating beet greens, but they are excellent.
So tell me a little bit more about what we have going on growing and how we can harvest this beet greens.
Yeah, so we like to have a lot of variety, as we've talked about so much, and we will have a lot of variety even within one bed. So we grow several different types of beets here. And we've got some really pretty ones right here. I'll show you. This one is a purple beet, and it's a cylindrical shape.
Wow.
And then this one here, if you want to get it, is it's pretty cool when you cut
Oh
it.
wow, look at that color.
Yeah, and if you cut it this way, it is candy cane striped, red and white striped.
That's really fun.
Yeah.
We've had a great time out here at Fullness Farm today learning all about greens. Allison, thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome anytime. Thanks for coming out.
The Louisiana Harvest of the Month program showcases a different Louisiana food each month in Louisiana communities. We hope you will join us in tasting Louisiana this month.